Dan Fulkerson back for episode 5, Lemons to Lemonade podcast. The whole purpose of this perspective, talking to people that have gone through real shit, gone through real experiences, traumatic events in their lives, and come out the other side stronger. I can't tell you how excited I am to have this man sitting next to me on this show, someone I look up to, a mentor of mine. I don't have many. He is certainly one of them, one of the most real, sincere, true talking people that I have met. And Jason Sisneros, needs really no introduction. A lot of you that, are watching this probably already know him because you followed me, but I wanted to bring Jason on. Jason's all over the place. He's in San Diego doing some business and was lucky enough to give me a couple minutes of his time. Thank God, because I wanted to talk to him about his business experiences and having businesses that have struggled and gone through bankruptcies and coming out the other side. And the reason why I wanted to have you on and talk to you about this is, one, you're one of the most brilliant business minds I've ever been around. And I don't just say that because you're sitting here. And two, we're going through crazy economic times right now in our country. And there's a lot of businesses that are scared shitless. And there's a lot of people that have their identities so wrapped up in their businesses, and they're worried about losing not only their business, but their identity and their life. And that can be really depressing. And I know you've gone through that, and I just wanted to get your feedback on what advice would you give people that are in that situation?
That's a great question. It's a great subject, especially with the times as they are right now. But if you think about it over the scope, so you got to always put things in perspective so that you can view them from the 300,000 foot mark, as opposed to where you happen to find yourself. And, 90+% of companies go out of business over the course of a decade anyway, right? And one of the great things that the government did, which is very few of them, right? But one of the great things that they did was they looked at business owners, and they saw not only were you the driver of jobs, the driver of the economy, a great indicator of the mood of a country. They said they also saw that when we failed, we stepped up and tried again, right? They count on that. So when somebody goes out of business, there's this predictable loop that they come back into the system somehow. And so that's why you see things like corporate veils. Now I'm going to talk specifically, and I'm going to talk emotionally. Like I'm going to talk about the specifics of the concept of going out of business. Why does bankruptcy exist in the first place? It's to set a corporate veil. They literally call it a corporate veil between you and your business. And unfortunately, because we get so emotionally bound with our businesses, we also get emotionally bound with our finances. We have a business that pays a credit card here, a cell phone bill there, or we go shopping or whatever, because we have forgotten that there's supposed to be a veil. Part of that veil is financial. And when that veil comes down, now there's a free reign to come in and get your stuff, right? Your business is not you. You are not your business is one of the greatest comments I've ever heard from anyone. But that's difficult. And I'm going to be speaking probably to a lot of people who go, I can't separate myself from my business. You look at you, right? With your name's literally on the business. Like you are the business. And not only that, but your business provides for you the ability to do the things that you wanted to do when you were a child, right? When you're a kid, it has offered you the ability. And the reason why we worked together in the first place was because I saw your heart for charity, right? It's a great big, your name is literally all over this town on vehicles and billboards and that kind of thing. So if all of a sudden you have a disruption in your revenue, which is all a business is, okay? Look, a business, and I'm going to say some things that are going to hit people emotionally because they don't want to believe it. But this is the very first place that you have to go. If you feel any kind of way about what I'm going to say, then you are too attached emotionally to your business. A business is a machine that should produce cash. Now, Jason, I care about my employees. I care about my customers. Obviously, I'll use your business as an example again.
And by the way, all these things are exactly how I sounded before he broke me down. Right. This is me.
Well, I always, you look at the world today, you have to deal with the problem that is if you're ever going to solve it, right? We're right in the middle of racial tensions, and you have to address the issue that is, or else it's never going to be solved, which is why we're still having a problem with it all these years later.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with our businesses. If we forget that it's a machine that's created to or built to create cash, that cash then funds our passions, right? Well, this is this is the way I take care of my family. Of course it is, but it isn't unless it's a machine that's creating cash.
Yep.
So this is what I do to support, my philanthropic things. I want to your pups, right? That you rescue, the rescues that you do, and the other things that you funded and things that you've given money to, and all the stuff that everybody in San Diego knows you to be. But you can't do that unless you're running a machine that creates cash.
Yep.
Right. I love my employees. Great. Well, you want to pay them well. I know I met every one of your employees. They're all amazing human beings, and I know you love them like family.
Yep.
But again, if the machine's not creating cash, there is no way to support them.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Retirement, kids' college funds. If the whole world shuts down for a couple of months because of COVID, right?
That would never happen.
That would never happen.
Would never happen.
Like mysterious situations, right? So being prepared. And so I wanted to put that out there, that if your business is not a machine that's creating cash, that's the first place that you have to back up to and rebuild. Okay. Put that separation between you and the emotions of the actual business. Because again, one of my mentors said, Jason, why would you ever love something that's not going to love you back? Your business is never going to love you back. Yep. Your employees will, yep. Right? Your customers will, your clients, your patients, your whoever it is, they will. The people that you're able to serve with your philanthropy, those people are going to love you back. The business is an inanimate object. It's supposed to be a machine creating cash. So you want to fall in love with your business's ability to be able to create the lifestyle and the life that you want to see. Right?
What'd you say to me? Ice cold, emotionless decision making.
Ice cold, emotionless. Yep. Ice cold. And again, this is where you have to be emotionally mature enough to be able to separate emotions from intellect, right? And to be able to make good decisions divorced of the emotions, because everybody watching this, if they're going to tell the truth, can look back on a period of time when they were high emotion and made stupid decisions because of it.
Yep.
Right. Every single person, if they're honest, can look back and say. So what we say is, emotions high, profits low. We say intellect high, profits high. And that's really true, because you have to separate yourself from that decision. And because you went through the brain beating session of doing a deep dive with us, and turning your company around, which it didn't really need turned around. It's like most businesses, which are just, you have some things out of sequence, yeah. Right? And then you put them into sequence. Now the thing is running optimally. Yeah. Now, so let's get back. Let's reverse that.
And I love the example that I love, that I stick with, is because it's all decisions. Like, yeah. I asked you, I'm like, do you think I should buy this building?
Right.
And you're like, why the fuck are you going to buy the building?
Right.
Like, tell me why the fuck are you going to buy it so you look cool? Are you going to buy it so you can say you own a building? Or are you going to buy it because it's an ego? Or does it actually help your business make more money?
Right.
And then if it does, and you can give me a logical explanation, I'll tell you it's a good move. But right. I'm not just going to tell you and I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's making a business case. If you're a solopreneur, you have to make a business case to find another good business person for you to reach out to, so that when you're making major decisions in your business, that you have to prove it, right? Even myself, I mean, I've had I just had a big exit, but 6,500 employees and 20 plus businesses and so on and so forth. I still had people in my life that if I wanted to do something, that I would have to make my case to them.
Yep.
And it's just the process of making the case. So if you're a solopreneur and operating by yourself, you've got to figure out someone to make that case with, or learn the concept of changing hats, right? I am now the CEO trying to get my investors to put money in. Now I put my investor hat, because we're most often the investors in our business, and I have to justify it. Now, the justification then turns into performance, right? If you say you're going to do something, then you do it. And this is why a lot of times, I will not invest in other people's companies, because a fool and their money are quickly parted. and you'll never care as much about somebody else's money as you do your own. Right. And I have just figured out I can invest in my own businesses. I can do all that kind of stuff, have control over it. And the only idiot that I want to go beat up if it fails is me.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So further that conversation down the road, when you're looking at a bankruptcy, that means that a lot of times a bankruptcy, because a lot of the companies that we work with, you're one that has thrived through a very difficult situation. And the reason is because you did the work prior to, thank God on the timing, right? And
couldn't have hit it better.
Yeah.
And by the way, like, thank God for Jason, because it took him a year of telling me, like, your business is strong, but you have holes that you need to plug.
Danger
and
spots.
He kept, and I kept my ego, arrogance. Like, no, I'm 34 years old running one of the best premier firms in town. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Sure enough, 2 days, I realized you were right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that you were, again, most businesses are doing a lot of the right things. It's just out of sequence.
Yeah.
And for you, the reason why I was so adamant about it is because I got your heart, right? Yeah. Anton J Global is my consulting company. And, our motto is we help good people make more money, get more time so they can do more good. And I knew that you had such a high level of potential of upside growth that if we could help you, that you were going to help, the world at large. Like, you like to save puppies. I like to save little girls and little boys, right? It's the thing is we're making the world a better place. Yep. And the more money that we have as an asset, which I wish the world would understand, right? You don't create influence by burning stuff down. You create influence by building things. And, and that's where I'm putting all of my energy and effort right now, is to make sure that those people that have a good heart for service are properly resourced. Because nobody that I know that's run a business, anybody that's watching this that runs a business, nobody I know is lazy.
Yep.
Right. They're all working hard.
Yep.
They're all putting everything that they've got into their business. And so we coined a phrase at Anton J that said, it's called hashtag the right hard work. Do the right hard work and let that shit optimize, and then you can scale. Yep. Right. Everybody's trying to scale, which scaling in most idiots' minds means selling more. Yep. That's not scaling. Right. There's 4 components.
So what do you do when you're a business that you can't turn it around? You can't fix it. It's broken and you need to BK out of it. It's the smart financial move. There are situations. That's why it exists.
Yep.
The emotional toll. Thank God. I hope I never have to go through that. You have. You've gotten through it 3 times. Yeah. How do you get through that? How do you separate yourself from it? How do you move on to the next? How do you get up the next day?
It's interesting because I'm right in the middle of a new book called How to Go Out of Business.
No shit.
I mean, I looked around and there's no book. I it's blown me away, because when my very first bankruptcy, and I'm going to tell a tale of one way to do it and then the next, right? Which is what everybody kind of is watching this episode for, I'm sure. But when I went through it, I was tied to the emotions of the business. It was my identity. It crushed me. Like, I couldn't look my daughters in the face. I went through a divorce.
Embarrassed?
Yeah, I was so embarrassed, because I mean, I literally, like, again, I was sort of a pillar of the community. Yeah. I was doing things. I was close to being, like, I was working my way towards being mayor of the town. Right. And which because of my performance, I was on the economic development councils. Like, I was doing good things. Right. And then when it went away, it made me feel like a criminal, like, all over again, because that's my background when I was a kid. It made me feel like a criminal, an outcast. It was, all the money that I had, the big house that I had, the toys that I had, all that kind of stuff had, was telling the world that I was worthy of their love. And now all of a sudden I've lost it, and I lost the world's love again, which I'm glad it happened now. Yep. Right. I'm glad it happened now, because now, you know me, I don't flash my stuff. I don't do, a lot of,
you don't fucking need to,
flashy things. Cause actually, when you actually have shit, there's a world out there that wants to take it from you. So
you're also one of the rares that don't try to impress anyone.
Right.
You're just,
it's a pointless exercise, right? It's not solving the problem that is. And so I went through that and then ended up like literally it drove me down. And I went through 3 bankruptcies kind of back to back to back because they were intermingled, and I had invested. I say invested, I was wasting money into another company, lost that one, lost another one. And that drove me into such a pit of despair that I ended up losing everything. My house, I literally stole a U-Haul and threw as much of my stuff as I could out of my house into it, and just drove to a town where nobody knew me. Right. I was having panic attacks, all of this stuff that had just welled up. When we don't deal with the problems in our life, they're eventually going to catch up to you.
Yep.
And it did all at once. And that drove me to a place where I couldn't hold a job. I couldn't sit here and have a conversation with you because I would be like sweating and thinking I was having a heart attack and, brain aneurysms. I mean, everything you could possibly imagine. And so that drove me to, I had to sell everything that was in that U-Haul. The last thing that I had as something to sell was my gun. And I sat not too far from here, on a cliff, in Pacific Beach where I was going to end it all, and I didn't, that, and just decided that I was going to come back and I was going to build everything differently this time. I didn't care about friends that cared about what I had, right? I wanted friends who cared about who I was. I wanted my wealth to eventually mean something, to build something, to leave a legacy for my kids. I wanted them to be laughing and crying because they missed me at my funeral, but they were smiling because of all the memories that we made, and really I wanted to build a life of value. And in order to do that, I had to get around people that were of value and learn those lessons, because all I had been surrounded by were people who were mediocre and didn't really have a vision for their future, and the criminals that raised me, aside from my mom. Okay. She was no criminal. She just happened to marry one. But, so anyway, so that led into a deep despair. And a lot of people don't understand the ramifications. You can bounce back from whatever it is that you're doing, as long as your mind's right. So if you have a restaurant right now, which is, you're under attack, not only from COVID shutdowns and rules and people thinking you're non-essential and these type of things, but also riots that are tearing down the inner cities and the neighborhoods and making them unable to open. So it's a quick shift. If you go, okay, I have to detach myself from the emotion of what I'm doing and look at what else can I do. I was busy the entire time COVID was happening. I was busy with other clients.
Yep.
We had a guy that was selling cars that immediately switched into those spit guards that you see everywhere, making a fortune right now. Right. So pivoting can only happen when your emotional strength is intact.
Yep.
And so you've got to get to the idea of going, okay, my restaurant, I put everything. Well, Jason, I don't have any money, right? That all of my money is sunk into that. Well, figure out a way to pull your money out. And this is going to be in the book, right? How to Go Out of Business, is that you get guilted in. The reason why you have a business is there's a certain amount of risks. You make a risk by investing. Vendors have a risk by extending credit. Banks extend risk for a reward, and so on and so forth. Well, banks and vendors are really good at guilt tripping you into screwing you and your family into a hole where you can't do anything. Right now, you've, on top of your business going out of business, you look at 40 million people out of work.
Yep.
It's a horrifying place to be.
Yep.
So what I would say is conserve your cash.
Yep.
And a lot of people would listen to that statement and go, Jason, that is antithetical to integrity. And I understand the argument, because what I did was I paid my employees as long as I possibly could. I gave every extra penny that I had to back to vendors and all of the kind of stuff that I did. And I left me and my family in a place where I had zero strength to be able to build back.
Yep.
Now, had I reserved some of that strength, I would have been able to build back up faster to be able to pay everybody back faster.
Yep.
And eventually I did pay everybody back and made everything right. But that took a long time.
Yep.
And it took 3 years longer than it should have. If you conserve cash, figure out a way to get started doing something else, selling cars or whatever it is. That's the best use of your cash right now, as opposed to paying down debt. You conserve your own cash. So that's something that you'll never hear from anybody else, right? Is conserve your cash. The reason why you have your corporate entity set up is to protect you for situations just like this, right? And I'm not saying don't ever pay them back. I'm saying be honest with everybody, have conversations with everybody. But at the end of the day, why people are breaking in and stealing stuff is because they're not breaking in because they want a Gucci bag. They're breaking in because that Gucci bag can be sold on Amazon for $500 or $5,000 or whatever it is to be able to feed their family.
Yep.
Right. And so you want to make sure that you leave yourself some sort of strength. Now that's in a pivot. If you're in a business that you just weren't taking great care of your customers, your product really was sort of substandard, but everybody was buying it because the economy was racing and so on and so forth. This is a great time. And this is what we've seen in Anton J is companies are taking the time to either do our 12-week master course called Growth, How to Master Your Business G-Spot, which is a great name. Or they're investing in bringing my team in to help them turn their companies around to pivot, because they've got some PPP money, because they're investing that money into making sure that they're best prepared for whatever is next.
Yep.
Right. And I believe there's going to be a V recovery. I think this was a giant tester of a system. I think there's going to be a V-shaped, recovery. I think we're going to come back stronger.
The market would agree with you.
The market would. And I've been saying this from the beginning.
You have
been.
And against large protests.
Like
I've watched
people calling me idiots and and I was like one of the sole people out there. But you see we, instead of having 10 million jobs lost, we gained 2.5, right? Or sorry, it was 8 million that were predicted, 2.5 million gained. So it was about a 10 million job swing last month. This week, the largest increase in retail sales, almost 18% that this country's ever seen. The fundamental strength of our economy was not in jeopardy, right? And that was the thing that I was going off of. Now money is emotion, as we've been speaking this entire time. And so the stock market went up and down based on people's emotions. The ice cold killers have made a fortune in the marketplace, right? Because the fundamental value of the businesses, the underlying businesses, just like the ones that are out there, like, look, my business is fine. Like I've got customers, I've got a great product, but I just can't open my doors. Yeah. Right.
You're American Airlines. What are you doing?
You're right. Exactly. And so the idea here is to, again, for the basis of time, I could speak about this for 5 days, but at the end of the day, for people that are going through struggles and looking for different strategies, my number one goal is figure out how to put your emotions on ice, right? Everybody knows somebody that is just ice cold under pressure, right? They just, the higher the pressure, the better they get at decision making. Pilots are that way, right? When there's a bump in the air, they don't come on the thing and go, "Oh my God, everybody hold on. I don't know what's happening." They say, "Oh, we're just going through a couple bumps, y'all. Just enjoy the ride. We're not going to charge you anything extra for this extra entertainment," and they put you at ease. You have to be one of those people that puts yourself at ease first before you're ever going to be able to calm customers and or employees into calming down enough to execute on a strategy.
Got it.
And strategy is how I would end it. You have to build a strategy, right? That's the intellect. You have to sit down and look at all your options. We won the Cold War not because we were technically stronger than Russia, but Reagan looked at them and said, what are their weaknesses? And let's attack those. And what are our strengths? And what do we build on there? It should be the same exact way in your business.
Got it. I have one last question for you to end this. I think a large reason of why you live your life the way that you do, and I might be wrong, this is an assumption, is because of the legacy you want to live and because of what you fight for and the cause you fight for. Mm-hmm. For me, I wake up every day and people are like, "Why do you put so much on your plate?" You even said that to me. Like, the reason is I want to open a bulldog rescue and rescue as many dogs someday and have a rescue ranch. Right. And that's what I want to do. you rescue humans.
Yeah.
You rescue little boys and little girls.
Mhm.
How big a part of having that as a passion is that driving force in the success of your business?
Yeah. So I will say it this way, is that when you switch from, I live by a very simple principle, and that is I want to become, God puts us on this earth to make us as good as we can possibly be so that we can help other people. Right. And so what I will tell you is that since my life shifted from what about me, how do I get mine, that kind of stuff too, my life is about service. Every single resource I've ever needed showed up because it was in alignment, right? You're busy, but things are in alignment because of your outcome.
Yep.
And so when I go to bed, everybody's like, what keeps you up at night? Not a thing. I sleep like a baby.
Yep.
It's what pops me out of bed in the morning, 4:30, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, wake up, throw open the shades, get ready to roll. It's because I know that there's a little girl or a little boy that doesn't believe that somebody's looking for them. I know that there's a woman every 11 minutes. It's proven out. I know that there's a woman every 11 minutes that's being beaten inside of her own home that can't leave because of economic or criminal reasons because of her husband or boyfriend or whatever. I know that every 4 seconds somebody's dropping dead of starvation, not hunger related issues, starvation. And so that creates in me whatever potential God put inside of me. I want to optimize and maximize every day, so that I might be able to be of service. And that's the legacy. Any legacy that people are going to leave is going to be one of neglect, right? Apathy, fear, or love, right? And it's either fear or love, really, if you want to break it down to the basics. But I want to leave a legacy of love. And how I do that is God has given me, and I've hard fought for the skill sets to get a compliment like you paid, which is, it's the best, brightest business mind, blah, blah, blah. Like, I appreciate that, but that is it. It's worthless to have that title if it's not being used for good.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's everything to my success. It's everything to my passion. The reason why I even have a consulting job or consulting business, right? When I really despise most consultants, the reason why is because I realized at some point in time that I could never make enough money to fill the hole of rescuing 10 million kids and doing my best to end domestic violence and feed everybody. I could never do that on my own. I could never do that with that amount of money, but I could also not do that without an army of people just like you.
Yep.
That I could teach these skill sets to, that you're smarter than I am in multiple areas. You just needed the sequencing. And every single human being that I can hand that sequencing to is going to make more money, do more, have more time so that they can do more good.
Damn straight.
And that's it.
Damn straight. Well, I so appreciate you taking the time out. I know how busy you are. It means more to me than you know. And my hope is that this helps someone. I know, there's a lot of people going through a lot of struggles right now, and you can always reach out to me. I know that Jason's always available. Follow and find Misfit Nation on Facebook. It's an amazing community, very like-minded people that are there for support that Jason started. It's an honor for me to be a part of it. And again, just thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on. Be kind to one another. If you need anything, you can always reach out to me.
Amen.